guys so much for having me. It's if you told me 2 years ago I would be standing on the stage presenting a company I'd started while I was pouring water at Blue Hill, New York, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But anyway, we'll get there and eventually. So I want to start today with a question, which is, what do shoe polish and tortillas have in common? Well, these days it's actually commodity corn. This is definitely not the kind of corn that you eat in a cob. You would not want to. You'd break most of your teeth. This is yellow dent corn. The United States produces more of this than anywhere else in the world, 795 billion pounds of it just last year. Now, 93% of this corn is genetically modified. And this is the kind of corn that's touted as a means to feed the entire world. We heard a little bit earlier about this on this subject. Well, how much of this actually ends up in human food? Well, it got me thinking, and the numbers are pretty staggering, in fact. 98.5% of this corn goes to products that are nothing to do with food. Things like ethanol, animal feed, and shoe polish. It leaves very little, which for something that once started off as an expressly eaten item. Things like cereals, snack foods, and tortillas only make up about 1.5% of what's consumed in the United States. So suffice it to say, corn as a human food has become an afterthought. As far as tortillas are concerned, that's a $6.8 billion afterthought. That's the size of the American corn tortilla market today. And there's a huge problem with that. Why? Well, the tortillas are based on an ingredient that's very much at odds with our evolving consumer preferences. Take the 75% of Americans who express concern about genetically modified foods. Non-GMO as a category is outselling organics in grocery stores as of last year. And the FDA just jumped on board this year, in fact, 2 weeks ago, to start regulating and testing for Roundup residue on commodity foods like corn and soybeans. So there's a huge opportunity, and this $6.8 billion market isn't going anywhere. Latinos are only expected to rise. These are stats that we've heard of, right? They're expected to reach by 2060, 31% of the total population. Their flavors are coming with them. And so this is a huge opportunity for us to be able to meet these needs, but where do we find the best that this cuisine has to offer? Where do we find the best corn as a human food that it has to offer? That's where Masienda comes in. Founded in 2014, Masienda sources, imports, and purveys heirloom corn directly from Mexico. This is non-GMO corn that's identity preserved. Our mission is to pursue exceptional flavor while supporting smallholder farmers like Catarino here and his family, biodiversity, and sustainability. Now, why Mexico? Don't we produce enough of it here in the United States? Mexico kind of invented corn, 10,000 BC actually. And so there's the highest concentration of biodiversity of this in the world. There's 59 land races or locally adapted heirloom breeds that are expressly consumed by humans. Would never think about using this for shoe polish. From a sustainability perspective, non-GMO corn is not allowed to be cultivated in Mexico. So this creates a lot of insulation from crossbreeding, as well as an identity preserved product that's, again, only meant to be consumed. Finally, smallholder farmers. This is our supply chain. There are 3 million smallholder farmers that have been growing this corn for subsistence purposes since 10,000 BC. 3 million farmers. Masienda wants to work with these folks to absorb and provide offtake for surplus. We're not going to be tapping into any of this that's being used for home consumption. We're just creating a viable market for folks to sell and create livelihoods for themselves in situ. Now, how do we do it? We'll connect with farmers like Armando here. We'll connect via community extension organizers who have been identifying this landrace material in Mexico for a number of decades. And Masienda will then safely test, sort, and store this product until it's ready for export. We'll take it to the end user, which right now are high-end chefs, and we're getting into the CPG market. We started with 88,000 pounds in 2014, and we are up to 880,000 pounds that we've imported by this year. We scaled by 10 times, and across the world, we're actually in more than 100 clients' restaurants. And what we were doing is we were importing this corn in the commodity form, the raw shelled corn form, and selling to chefs. But we're getting into the co-branded CPG space to take advantage of this momentum that we've built in the marketplace, and we're also doing Masienda branded CPGs as well. Now, we've been able to establish an unimpeachable supply chain in a space that's really desperate for high-end natural products. We've done so in a very short amount of time, and the sky is really the limit for what we can do from here. What we're here to do today is to really focus on connecting with folks who are interested in investing in this space and who have some type of interest in the future of how we're consuming one of the most publicly traded commodities in the world. My name is Jorge. I'm from Masienda, and again, it's a pleasure to be here. Any questions? I'll be here all day, and looking forward to answering them.
Awesome, Jorge. Good stuff. Excellent. You guys know the drill by now? Raise your hands high. We've got 5 minutes to put Jorge on the spot.
Hi there, great presentation. When you bring the corn into the U.S., what facilities have you found, or have you found it a challenge to find facilities that will segregate, store it, and mill it, keep it separate from the rest of the supply chain?
Yeah, it's a great question. We work with freezer storage facilities. These are certified third-party storage facilities across the country that are, it's not necessary to keep in storage, but it's certainly something that can extend the shelf life. So all seed banks in the world use the same practice, and we do the same. It's just an added measure of precaution. Does that answer the question?
Hi. Given the nature of your supply chain, how scalable is your business, and are you currently running profitably today?
We are running profitably today. We started with, to give you an idea, about 120 farmers. We're at 1,200 this year, and there's 3 million that we could potentially be reaching in Mexico. So the scale is quite significant. It's also important to keep in mind that most of these folks are operating well below their potential. They might have 5 hectares of land, and they've only been growing on 1 hectare because there's been no market, that could possibly absorb surplus up to now. And so we're talking about increasing significantly within these individual farmers we already work with, in addition to adding on additional communities and states to our roster. The opportunity is huge because we're focused in really areas that are incredibly ripe for economic development, typically poor areas in Mexico that have had no opportunities from outside commerce until now. So the sky is the limit for us, we think.
Hi there.
Hi.
I think I read that you had planned to bring other products from Mexico to the U.S. initially when you started the company. I'm wondering if the amount of demand for the corn surprised you, and if you could speak about the demand, are you able to satisfy it? And what is the difference in price in the corn you provide versus other corn?
Okay. The demand definitely surprised us. I wanted to start a tortilla production facility and went to Mexico to find corn and didn't expect to get into corn first. So definitely, I think that's really to talk, to the talk that we had earlier, the power of chefs today. I had no idea how much that culture really had an impact in the world to change the way folks are eating until I was able to do that myself. I had experienced it tangentially, but certainly the demand was huge for us from the get-go. The scaling opportunities for us, we started off with corn, and I think it was taught very well, I thought, from some of the folks that I work with in the restaurant industry to make sure that we're using the farm holistically. So obviously a natural extension of that from sustainability and also additional offtake for farmers is beans. And all of the companion products that really lend itself to a thriving ecosystem of corn. So that fine line between, that David Barber was talking about earlier, it's very much baked into what we do, not just for economic opportunities for farmers, but because that ecology makes something taste better. And there was a third question. I'm sorry, did I get that? Price. So we're not subsidized. American commodity corn is subsidized by the government and actually exported to Mexico, which is then subsidized again. So we're definitely not competitive with commodity pricing, though we're competitive on a value-added product. So CPGs were able to compete with conventional products. It depends. It's a moving target. It depends on the Chicago Board of Trade on any given day, but we're certainly higher in cost.
I'm curious what that premium is over the GMO corn, and also how do you control for climate changes and any issues that the corn crop in Mexico, because it's a smaller supply chain, it could be more variation.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question one more time?
Because you have a smaller supply chain in Mexico, if there's changes in climate or any kind of drought or issues affecting supply, how do you control for that and also control for the changes in price?
Sure, yeah. So we really spread out our inventory across all types of climates. We don't just focus in a monoculture in subtropical regions. We're in subtropical, tropical, and highland. not just because it's a better expression of the biodiversity, but it also is risk mitigation. So, concentrating even within one state of Oaxaca, you have so many different climates. I mean, out of 59 land races, there's 35. So we're really trying to tap into that natural ecology there, and in addition, just to provide additional offtake to farmers, we're spreading that reach throughout other states as well.
Jorge, we're out of time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Masienda.